Hello everyone and welcome to my review of The Whisper Man by Alex North. Now I was very excited for this book as I had just finished The Shadows by the same author and I had loved it. If you want to check out my review of The Shadows, I will link it down in the description. So basically these two books are set in the same universe and do have some characters that cross over. It's nothing major, but it is fun when you come across a familiar character while reading. The books were released in the order Whisperman first and The Shadows later, but it is totally fine if you pick either first. I myself read The Shadows first. After having read The Shadows, I was expecting a similar kind of experience from this book. And while I did enjoy the book, the environment that the author creates here is different from The Shadows. I would say that The Shadows is a thriller mystery and has a little bit of horror element in it. Honestly, I expected more horror in this book. Now getting straight into the story of the book, we follow our two main characters, Tom and Jake Kennedy, who are also father and son, moving to a new town for a fresh start after the death of Rebecca, who is Jake's mom and Tom's wife. The town that they move into is currently witnessing a case of abduction of a kid named Neil Spencer. The investigation of this case is headed by Detective Amanda Beck. Now this was a delightful surprise for me because Detective Beck is also a major character in Alex North's other novel, The Shadows. Now this very town had also witnessed a similar case of abduction and murder about 20 years ago. And the person who did it had been called the Whisper Man. So after the abduction of Neil Spencer, the fear of return of this Whisper Man spreads amongst the people. There is one interesting thing to note here. The book's plot is somewhat similar to The Shadows. Not in the terms of the story, but in the terms of the events and their sequence. In that book too, a crime had been committed many years ago and a similar crime comes to light in the present day. And I must admit that I have started to like this type of storytelling. Now coming to the writing style, you will have a very familiar experience here if you have read The Shadows. When I started this book, I expected the same spooky environment as The Shadows, but I was a bit let down over here. This is more of a thriller mystery as I previously said. But apart from that, I felt that the writing was decent. The pacing of the story is decent and there are moments when it just gets wild and intense. The environment creation in this book, though not what I expected, is still amazing. As you get in the latter half of the book, it gets seriously addictive. You would just want to cruise through the book and finish it at once. There also comes a big WTF moment at about 40% of the book, but I would say it is not as big as what was in The Shadows. Also, there were moments in this book in which my heartbeat literally went up for a moment. Yeah, that's how wild it gets at times. The suspense reveal in this book is not left till the very end. The end is more of a thriller and action rather than being a big suspense reveal. And honestly, I would have loved if the former was the case. Okay, now coming to the most interesting thing, that is the characters. The author does a decent job in developing the characters. Mainly the father-son relationship is beautifully developed along the story. The character of Jake, who is the son, really has depth to his character. We are shown the circumstances through the eyes of a little boy and it is done beautifully. We genuinely start to care about him and sympathize with him as we read. And you could feel that Jake is a character who is an odd boy, bullied at the school and is really troubled. While that is true, there is a deep meaning to him apart from that. His actions, his behavior starts to make sense as we read. He is probably my favorite character of this book. The author really excels at developing the relationship between characters, and there are a couple of them here. And because we really care about these characters, in a way it becomes very interesting to read. I also felt that the character of Amanda was not well developed here. Maybe I felt this because I read The Shadows first, in which she was a major character and obviously more developed. But her character did feel a bit underdeveloped in this book. Now, coming to the ending, I would say that the book has a satisfying ending. A happy ending, in fact. Though I did feel bad about some characters, but overall, I thought that all of them got the ending that they deserved. Most of the questions have a logical conclusion in this book. But again, you might feel that some things are unexplained here, but it's nothing major, and probably the answers lie in the book itself if you read carefully enough. So now that that's out of the way, we come to the verdict. I give this book a 7.5 out of 10. If you want a good mystery thriller, pick this book up. But if you want something with creepy vibes and horror elements in it, I would say this is not the one for you. In that case, I would recommend The Shadows by the same author. So that was my review. That's all for today. Do let me know in the comments how you feel about the book and my review. And as always, happy reading.